who are you? What's your content about, and what can people expect when they look at your content on the internet?
I am a AFOL new. I'm going to say a newly minted AFOL
Okay.
who did not have Lego as a kid. So, Lego is 100% my adult thing here. The things to expect from my content is, well, when it comes to Instagram and stuff, I would say infrequency, because I am not great at posting like I will do the video or I will do the photos and they just never make it online. But I'll do stories more than anything like those, because those are really quick. I can just throw those up. And then during my streams, I mean, the thing to expect is that I will get nothing done. I will be lucky if I finish a bag, and I will just keep on talking. Mm-hmm. I'm a talker. So you talked about where, you try not to interrupt the flow and things like that. When questions come in, I will be mid thought in stream and see a question and just stop and be like, oh, yeah. And then completely forget what I was talking about before. Yeah. So, but hopefully it's good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally expected during the stream, certainly. And I honestly, when I started this show, I found it a lot more difficult to kind of ride that line between live interaction as well as having a good conversation and doing a good show, which is where the show always we try to have one foot on each, like in each side of it, where we want that audience and the viewership to be able to interact and engage, but I also want to have a good conversation. So it's definitely a thing. And when I'm live doing the regular stream, a non-podcast stream, I'm the same way, where I will go on 5 different tangents and then get back to the thing that I realized that I was originally even trying to discuss in the first place. So absolutely. You mentioned you're a newly minted AFOL. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get into Lego?
So it's kind of an interesting journey. I'm actually a software engineering manager. So I'm in the STEM stuff and everything. And, I know the importance, especially of young women and young girls, to be exposed to different STEM type things, especially when they're young. And when I had my little girl, of course, I had heard that Lego was great for that it was great for imagination, for building fine motor skills, for developing a better understanding of 3-dimensional space. And so I'm like, okay, my daughter needs this toy, because I want to make sure that I'm doing something that improves, all those things for her. And we started with a few Lego sets. And the funny part was, when she was younger, she couldn't really put them together as much. And so we had to build them. And I hated it. I hated it. In fact, I remember for the Captain Marvel movie, I had to put together the ship that we got her, because she loves Captain Marvel. And we got it. And she's like, can you put it together? And I'm looking at all the bags and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm putting it together and I'm not really enjoying it. And, and with hindsight, I don't think I enjoyed it because I wasn't building it for me. Right. And I was building it for someone who's staring at me, waiting for it to be done so they can play with it. So I didn't have a chance to enjoy the experience. But as she got older and it was more about, I just need to help her build it, I started to have a bit more fun with it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the thing that got me into Lego was my daughter and I were watching Lego Masters on Fox. And that was the first time that I was like, adults do this? Oh, it was just a kid's toy as far as I was concerned. Yeah. And so I watched them doing it. And there was this challenge where they were building, I think it was like a windmill, and they were showing how it would spin and things like that. And my daughter and I got her Legos together. And we built a windmill, and we had everything, tilted to make sure it would catch the air. And at the time we were living, this was when I was living on the West Coast. We were in Los Angeles. So we just had an air conditioner. So we turned the air conditioner on full blast and we put it in front and we watch it spin. And that was sort of a moment for my daughter and I where we kind of, it was our first taste of you can do more than just build the sets.
Yeah.
And then we ended up going to Legoland, and I bought my first set there, and now I'm here. That is literally how it happened. I bought my first set and I was like, ooh, this is fun.
That's a wonderful story. What out of curiosity was the first set that you got?
So I got two. They had the Lego Movie Land that had, even though it was well after the movie, it had just opened. And so I got I think it's Queen Whatever I Wanna Be. I got her set. And then the other one I got was a Lego Video, one of the bandmates in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my first two sets.
Those are cool. Those are great. That's excellent. You saw the potential of all the things that you could do with Lego, and then you just kind of dove right in. How long has it been since then?
So that was 2.5 years ago was when that started for me. That's
awesome.
And yeah, that sounds about right.
That's about the same time I actually got back into Lego too, right around then. I want to say, it's been right around 2.5 years at this point for me as well. So that's excellent. Simultaneously, somewhere out in the world, I was building a Daily Bugle set and having my moment as well. So I'm glad that you got into it. That's really cool. And since then, you've been probably building a lot of Lego, getting further into the life that is of an AFOL. Where does kind of the content creation or the Instagram and the Twitch and all that, how does that kind of factor into alongside this journey of being an AFOL?
I think like a lot of us during the pandemic, when we were stuck at home, there was a lot of extra time for hobbies. And so at that point, I had been through quite a few different hobbies. Being neurodivergent, I tend to be a bit of a hobby hopper. I'll do something, it's fun and interesting, and then it'll get bored and I'll move on to something else. But the other thing I was looking for in those hobbies was community. And the ones that I had picked up along the way, I found a very like unwelcoming community in some places. And so when I discovered like this AFOL community, honestly, on YouTube, I started going to these different streams and watching people. And I found a community of people that were so welcoming. You know, here was this person who was just online, people had never seen before or heard anything about, but they'd seen me in a couple streams and they would say hello to me. I can't tell you how often I'd be in a stream somewhere and you'd say something and nobody acknowledges you.
Yeah.
The fact that the community, there were people in chat that went out of their way to say hello to me. And I remember the first time that the person streaming said hello to me, I actually freaked out a little bit. I was like, oh my God, they saw me, like in a way, like, and I actually left. I was like, that was weird. That was so weird. But I came back and it was just so fun to just be acknowledged, have people say hi, or, hey, I saw you in that other stream. And as I was watching this, I was like, I want to be part of this community. So how do I do that? You know? And I was like, well, I stream. Right? That seems like that's how you build the community.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year to get the courage to do it because I was very nervous about it. And in fact, my very first stream was a little over a year ago that I did. And I had started on Instagram. I started doing like Instagram lives just for the heck of it. And I just assumed nobody would show up. And then people did. And it was very strange. But again, I wanted to be a part of this community. So I was like, okay, I did the test on Instagram. I'm going to go to YouTube. And I just found this wonderful, amazing, supportive group of people. And that is what has encouraged me to like continue making content, is I want to be part of this community. The other thing I would say is, in all fairness, representation. Being
Yeah.
obviously I'm different things, but I'm also a woman, and being able to have more women showing up in this space and streaming and talking about their love of Lego, I think that's really important and ideally welcoming for other people as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I think I think the representation piece especially is very important. And we touched on this in the Emmasaurus episode, and she, like you, felt very strongly about representing, and she talked about how when she was getting into it, and I mean it's still true today, where there's just not as much representation from women across the board in this space, in the hobby. And so thank you for sharing that. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad that people like you and Emmasaurus and everyone else out there who's trying to, show that as a woman, this is a hobby that you can love too, and that you have your feelings about it, and you're all about sharing it as well. So thank you for putting that out there. How was getting started in this space and trying to kind of learn about like streaming on Instagram and kind of getting into that? Because I'm not from the Instagram side of streaming to start with. So what was that like for you when you're getting into it?
So in all fairness, being a software engineer, I'm already into tech. And previously, I had dipped my toe into streaming video games.
Okay, cool.
So I was actually streaming on Twitch a little bit, some of my video game stuff. So I was already familiar with OBS, and I already had a decent amount of equipment.
Yeah.
Also, working from home, I had kind of almost a studio already set up because, I was doing all these meetings and I had like a really nice camera and the lighting and everything. And again, when you're working from home, I was like, well, what else are they going to stare at? Let me put something together and have fun with that. So it wasn't that difficult to transition into streaming on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of just figuring out how it works and how you set everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, the funny thing is my stream, something will go wrong every stream, but it's because I keep adding new things and trying to like do something different and try this transition or try this command and building all kinds of crazy stuff. But just for the core streaming, it wasn't that difficult. In regards to getting viewership, I sort of cheated a little. And that is that. So my second stream ever on YouTube I was part of the 72-hour community stream that Butt Shop puts together. And I had heard about it on one of these, somebody else's stream. And I was like, I'll sign up for it. And they're like, cool, do that. And it's similar to a raid train kind of, but obviously you can't unless you have like special whatever for YouTube to actually do it. What you do is you just have a list of here's each person in each time slot, and you just put the link on and you continue on. So I was able to get people who were already a part of this community watching my stream and kind of figuring out who I was ahead of time. So between that and of course being in other people's streams and introducing myself and people then subscribing from there, it definitely meant that I started streaming with a decent base of people.
Yeah. I think that's, I wouldn't call it cheating, but I think that's actually a great way to get involved, right? Is reaching out to those either established people in the community or participating in something like this 72-hour. I want to call it a raid train as someone who's more like on the Twitch side of things. It does. I mean, I actually had never heard of, I've never watched it until the most recent one, which was just like, was that last weekend? It was recent. It was this month.
Yeah, I think so.
Or last month. And that's definitely cool. I'm kind of curious for those that don't know about it. What's the history of that out of like curiosity? I wasn't all too familiar with how it came to be or what what the event is kind of built around.
So I don't have a lot of history because this was only my second one I participated in. But the story that I've heard was this was just kind of a way, especially when the pandemic first started, to, we have this community that was growing or starting. I do believe Butt Chop was the one who kind of started this and, wanted to get all of these different people together to try to create this like really long stream of people. And what's really cool is it's been going on for a while. Like I first found out back in 2019. Okay, so it has been going on for a while.
Awesome.
But what's really cool, because on YouTube, you schedule your stream usually, right? And so you have a thumbnail and everything. And there is a very specific 72-hour like template thumbnail. And it was just really awesome to go to like your page and just see nothing but all of these different like, it's the same thumbnail, but like with different people. Maybe they add a little bit to the graphic or what have you. But you just see this huge community of people, and it's just an awesome thing to just represent how many people are active and are streaming and are participating or creating some sort of content. It was really awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. When I caught wind of it, I noticed. I did notice the template that there was, the same one you all use, and then you each kind of customize it for your own channel and using kind of your flair for it. So that's a really cool little event. I think that more of those things should happen across YouTube, Twitch, everywhere. And I love it. I think it's always cool when you get people together because it kind of brings it cross-pollinates the channels a lot. You get a lot of those communities to come together and kind of get exposed to the other creators out there. So it sounds like, you said you did some gaming streaming before. You had the tech. That didn't seem like much of a hurdle, which is good because honestly, for those who have never streamed before, the tech is a big hurdle. If you've never done it before, it's it's still a hurdle for those of us who have done it before because things are always changing.
Yes. It never goes away. It just levels. The hurdle just gets bigger.
Yeah, it never goes away. Before we actually recorded or started recording, I let chat know, just let us know if something breaks. Let me know if something weird happens, because that's always how it goes. Aside from the technology, how was getting used to the whole act of streaming? I know that for some people, it's always there's some acclimating that needs to occur, and some people take to it quite naturally. How was that for you?
Streaming is very weird because it feels like a one-sided conversation because you're the only one talking. And whether or not you have people in chat, and if you have an active chat and people asking a lot of questions, it's much easier because you're just responding to them. But when you first start, you may get people who are just kind of lurking or, just don't have any questions. I happen to have one of those bots that does the gambling. And so sometimes people just gamble. And so the chat will just be nothing but people gambling with each other.
Yeah.
And so there's two things. First off, there's this desire to take up dead space, right?
Right.
And you have to resist that in some ways because it's okay for there to be dead space. What's not okay is for there to be long, like, segments that just go by with dead space. So you kind of have to figure out how to talk to yourself. Or the way I like to think of it is thinking out loud, which is something that as a engineer, when you do like a coding interview, interestingly enough, you'll have like a whiteboard problem you have to figure out, and they'll ask you to think out loud, like walk through as you're trying to solve this, what are you thinking about? Yeah. So I had a little bit of that experience and just needed to kind of bring it here and understand for example, if nobody's interacting in the chat, nobody's asking any questions, I might talk through my build, as I'm going through or say, oh, these instructions, this is kind of weird, or I'm having a hard time figuring this out, or, oh, this is really cute, or I like the way this came together, things like that, so that you can start kind of engaging with people. And you also might spark a conversation. For example, if you say something about, oh, well, these instructions are, kind of strange, you might have somebody come in and go, yeah, when I built that, I had an issue too. Or maybe they'll ask, well, what are you talking about? Can you show us? Things like that. So it's a great way to start sparking that conversation by doing that. But it is also at first really weird because there's nobody else in that room but you. I mean, obviously when you do things like Zoom chats and things, but you see another person and you can see their reactions. And I think that's a big thing too, is you cannot, like you and I are talking and I can see your expression. I can see you nodding for things and all of those different visual cues. In chat, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You have no idea how people are taking your conversation.
Yeah. You have zero feedback, except like no nonverbal feedback. More specifically, you just get all you get is the words on the screen from someone who decides to tap something in, or type something in, and that definitely makes it difficult when you're trying to gauge how conversation's going or get any kind of feedback from the other people out there. So, yeah.
Well, I make my husband watch my streams, and afterwards, I'll ask, like, how do you think that went? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. What kind of feedback did he give you?
I mean, he's always going to be nice.
Right.
He always is. Not that he's definitely told me if things were a little awkward or something, but he's always going to be fairly positive. I don't think I've ever had a stream where he's been like, well, that went terribly.
Right. My partner, she's the same way. She's like, oh, you did great, honey. I was like, but did I? I don't know for sure. Thank you, though. If you knowing what you know now and having the experience under your belt, what would you have told yourself, the version of you that was getting started in this streaming thing? What kind of advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
So I think, because this is hilarious, I was actually talking, I think I was talking to TJ the other day about this, how I think my 72-hour stream, I thought people were watching build streams to watch me build something. So I literally was just sitting there seeing, like, how fast can I build this? And not paying attention to chat, not doing any of those things.
Yeah.
So I think what I would have told myself is that this is for you to interact with the community. This is your opportunity for them to get to know you. Yes, it is a Lego build stream, but there's probably very few people who are there to watch you build it.
Yeah.
They're probably there to join with you in the experience of building it. So they want to know how you're doing. Are you frustrated with the build? Are you having fun? And to just take that type of mentality from it and understand that ideally people are there for you, to get to know you, to learn about you. Not, I mean, there might be, I'm sure there are some people who do just want to watch a build, but the ones in chat want to chat with you.
Mm-hmm. I think that is wonderful advice and wisdom there, because I think, I've been plugged into the Twitch side of the Lego building for about as long as I've been back into Lego. And so, that is a very consistent truth when it comes to streaming Lego on Twitch. Is people will show up, they see you're building Lego, and they're like, cool. And they're there to maybe check out what you're building, but ultimately they both stick around or return because they are looking to engage with you as the person who is building it. And, it could be as simple as, what do you think of the build? Or it can be, if they've been there long enough, they can ask you about anything related to you and your life, finding out how things are going. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful advice. Do you think there's anything you would have done differently now that you've been doing this a while?
I'm going to say no, just in the fact that I needed to experience it. You know, I don't think there's anything that I really could have changed based on where I was at that moment, based on how comfortable I was with the community and getting to know people. I think I had a very, you know, I'm happy with my growth and how I got there. So I don't think there's anything I would change at all in that way. And I think that's good also for my mental health sometimes, is to just kind of appreciate the journey. You know, I mean, obviously if there was like a huge mistake or something I made, that would be great to learn from. I enjoyed the journey, and I think I'm growing every single day and learning more every time I stream.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, I love that. And you know, to be fair, I think it's awesome that you have recognized and accepted what that experience means to you. I think that's always wonderful to reflect upon. How is it different streaming? Because, you know, it sounds like you've done some Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. How do those three different spaces differ? And what's that experience like for those that haven't done either any or all three of those things?
Yeah. So the Instagram, so I'll start with Instagram, because that one is, I feel that's great for in the moment streaming. For example, I'm at release day. You know, I'm waiting outside the Lego store. It's getting ready to open. Here are the things I'm going to get. Here's the line, or things like that. I think it's terrific for those.
Yeah.
For me, though, it's not as easy to engage with the viewers, because you do have this tiny little screen that you kind of see some things flying through. And you might see a comment here and there. And my experience as somebody who has streamed and has also watched somebody's, like, I guess it's going live, right? Their Instagram live, or has been a part of the Instagram live. It's more like something that you're just there to experience what they're doing, whether it be that they're like on a live, or a lot of people actually, there are some really cool shows. Mom and Mo show is on Instagram. And, you know, it's a couple people that are chatting and talking with each other, but it's not really about engaging with the community as much as it is just kind of hearing what they have to say and being a part of their conversation, you know, being a listener of their conversations. With YouTube, obviously there is far more interaction with people. You know, you've got a chat that you can actually scroll back and forth through. And, you know, there's a couple different tools and things to make things a little easier for people to interact with you. And that is, you know, I think for longer like forms of streaming, where it is like, I'm going to be building something, or, you know, maybe I want to do a stream because maybe there was a huge leak and I just want to talk about it with everybody, and I want to get other people's thoughts and opinions. I think that's a great way to do that, and to be able to interact with the community and be able to see their questions and kind of respond back. I think that's fantastic for that. Now, interestingly enough, up until like the month before Brick World Chicago, I was streaming exclusively on YouTube. And I started seeing a bunch of people streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
And so I was over in the Twitch streams and watching a few people, and I kind of got convinced, not that it was hard, to switch over to Twitch. And my main reason for doing that, and this kind of explains the differences between YouTube and Twitch, is that, number one, as a software engineer, one of the frustrating parts about YouTube is that their APIs are fairly closed. So you can't get the, like, oh, somebody just subscribed or is following, or you know, well, no, so it's not paid when it's a subscription on YouTube. In fact, it can be up to 24 hours before you're even alerted about that. And then if people have it turned off, you'll actually never know they did it. So there's not a lot of that type of community and things like you can't get notified about that. In regards to things you can do like in chat, it's a lot more challenging to do. For example, I was working on my own chatbot. I was actually trying to build my own chatbot with YouTube.
Yeah.
Because when I had Streamlabs and I was using that, you have to be live for it to work. So even testing things on it is not great.
Yeah.
You have to be live. It takes a little bit for the chatbot to realize you're live and like come into the chat.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of frustration if you wanted to do things that were a little more interactive in that way, as opposed to Twitch, where you just have this plethora of tools and things available to you where people can have fun. I mean, I've seen some insane chaos in people's streams.
Oh, yeah.
All of the different commands and people bringing stuff up that are either playing sounds or videos and clips. And that's all stuff that to do on YouTube is really hard. It can be done, but
it's far more difficult.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting, like to outline that difference, because even if like I didn't I got the sense of that, but I didn't know that for sure until you kind of broke that down. I got a little hint of it from what I've seen so far, but I would say the tools alone available to streamers is just vastly different in terms of like what's available to a Twitch streamer versus a YouTube streamer. So
yes, and with YouTube, and I'll be honest, I actually caught a bit of flack for switching to Twitch.
Oh.
Yeah. There were some people who weren't very happy about that. I think because they were comfortable with one platform and they didn't really want to split onto another one. And I understand that. But the other thing for me personally is that I am not a video content creator.
Right.
I'm not, I don't have the time or patience to make videos. I always think I'm going to. I always record footage, and then when it's time to edit it or do something, I'm just like, nah, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
So being that I was going to be streaming only, it's just so much easier on Twitch, because on YouTube you've got to create a thumbnail, you got to put together the description and everything, and you've got to schedule it and all this other stuff. And it is a small barrier.
It's a lot of hoops to jump through just to go live.
It is. It's quite a few, different hoops. And honestly, every time I'd be on YouTube, I would sort of feel, and this is just me personally, it's almost like I'd feel a little shamed. Like, why aren't you creating videos? Why aren't you?
I see.
Why aren't you uploading shorts? Why aren't you this is what this is for? You only have lives on here.
Right.
And again, this is all in my own head. With Twitch, it just felt like, okay, this is the only thing I'm going to do. This feels like a great place for me to be. I loved the raid idea. I was like, this is amazing. And I was fortunate that I had this huge community of people in Twitch that helped me and promoted me. I loved the whole shout out thing that's just built in. You can't easily do that on YouTube. And everybody was promoting everybody else. And it was just, again, that community that I loved. I loved that idea of just, okay, we're all streamers. This is what we're doing. We stream.
Yeah.
And so we're hanging out together. We're promoting each other. I love at the end of my stream that I'm like, oh, who am I going to raid now? Like, who do I get to go bring my audience to and maybe introduce them to somebody new or just someone fun? And it's very satisfying for me.
Yeah. I really liked that you broke down all the reasons for you that it feels like a good decision. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Twitch, I'm not trying to be biased here, even though I've spent more time as a Twitch streamer than say a YouTube content creator, but Twitch does definitely, they are built for this. They are built to be live, stream, engage with the community in real time. They've had a pretty good API so people can create better ways to engage with each other and other streamers. Like you said, the raid feature is pretty amazing. I couldn't imagine not having that now. And I was on Twitch when there was a time that it wasn't a thing, but man, it helps so much in terms of like building community, meeting other groups and other creators. So yeah, I do feel like it was, in your shoes, given the idea like I mainly stream, this feels like the place to be. Like, I think it's a good choice. It's a good choice.
Yeah.
How has it been for you since you've jumped over now that it's been a little while?
It's been good. It's been good. I definitely miss some people who just can't quite make the jump over to Twitch. And I understand. In fact, obviously the 72-hour community stream is on YouTube.
Yep.
And so I was doing that, and there were a lot of people in chat there who I hadn't seen in a while, who was like, "Oh, it's so good to see you, Amberlia." And there was even a comment about, "We miss you on YouTube." And I did get a little nostalgic because that is a wonderful community with really great people.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, I have been really enjoying the community that I'm building here. And I 100%, I understand that for people, if you already have a community in YouTube, it can be really hard to, and being neurodivergent, I totally get this. It can be really hard to balance, like, okay, well, so-and-so's on YouTube at this time to watch. And then, okay, so-and-so's on Twitch here. So here's where I need to watch that person. And I get that that's a little too much for people, and they're going to stick possibly with one platform where they're comfortable, and that's totally fine. And I don't take it personally that they don't come over to Twitch to watch. But like I said, I do occasionally miss them. I think I might every so often, maybe once a month, do like a YouTube stream just for the heck of it, just for some people over there. But as far as like my overall happiness with my streaming experience, I think Twitch has been really great.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And I think those feelings are natural, right? Of missing the connections and the relationships you have with communities and creators on YouTube. I think that's just something that I think regardless of platform, it's the AFOL, the Lego community, everyone I've encountered in it has just been so awesome to get to know and connect with. And so I could see that being very difficult to move from one to another platform and then missing those people, because you've made those connections, and certainly it's tough to switch. I think I've seen people come to Twitch from YouTube or when Mixer was a thing, and miss those friends on those other platforms, and vice versa, leaving Twitch to go explore other platforms like YouTube or Kick or all those other places. So it's a tough thing. But I remember seeing I think on Instagram I was already seeing your posts, even though I hadn't yet really gotten to know you. Then I started noticing that you're like, "Oh, I'm going to Twitch." I'm like, "Cool, another Twitch person, awesome, another Lego Twitch streamer." So, again, welcome to at least the Twitch side of the Lego community. It's nice. It's been nice seeing you and having you. We've had those interactions where I think there was definitely one time where we were both ending at the same time, and we were both getting ready to raid the other. And I know my chat was telling me, "Oh no, she's ending soon too." I'm like, "Oh no, okay." And like, I think I started to raid and then I stopped it, and so I'm like, okay. But I'm glad to see you on the platform. It's really awesome that you're having a good time doing it here on Twitch and enjoying the community you're building. So it's excellent. You brought up being neurodivergent. It sounds like it's definitely very important to kind of talk through that. How has that affected being a content creator and getting into not just content creation, but Lego, how has that affected your experience, and how do you hope to, I would imagine, represent that as well in the community?
Yeah. I think one of the, I hate to say anything is positive about like the pandemic, but I do think what was positive about having a little bit more time and space away from maybe some external, influences and things like that was that there was a lot of opportunity to really self-reflect. And I saw that a lot of people out there were realizing that they did have, different divergence. Myself, I am ADHD, and I was diagnosed at 6, which especially at the time, they didn't think girls could even be ADHD. So the fact that they're like, oh yeah, she's ADHD, so being again diagnosed with that from a kid, all the way up until like right before, I'll call it our time at home. That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I had never taken the time to dive in and even know what it meant to be ADHD. And so again, having that time for self-reflection, I was able to do a lot of research, and there were all of these communities online, and I started to understand myself and all those places where I just thought I was less than. I was understanding that no, it's the way my brain works, and it's a challenge, because when our time at home happened, it almost broke me, like emotionally and mentally. I had lost every single piece of framework I had in place to keep myself productive and doing things. They were all these little things that helped me to be, and I'm not a fan of this term, but high functioning. And so when all of that was wiped away and I had lost all my crutches, it gave me an opportunity to really, again, look and see, what is it? What does this mean? How do I understand it better?
Yeah.
And so there's obviously a lot of challenges with being, ADHD. I have some other things as well, because it's usually a comorbidity often. But just, again, having that understanding, knowing, okay, here's something I have a challenge with. So what are things I can do to make that thing easier for me? Because you don't get cured from it, right? And believe it or not, you don't grow out of it. It just changes.
Yep.
In fact, interestingly enough, hyperactivity as a child tends to turn into impulsivity as an adult.
Yep.
So no, I am not bouncing off the walls, but I am the person who will walk by something in the store and be like, ooh, I should buy that. So there's some other things that got to happen there. But one of the amazing things with Lego is that I found that with my particular, neurodivergence and stuff, I'm very tactile. And so I love the way it feels to put sets together. I love the snap of the brick. I love just like the smoothness of the tiles and things. And it's actually very soothing for me when I build. And I was able to find this basically a mental health solution in some ways for when I was feeling stressed and things. I could just build. And I loved the fact that there were instructions, so I didn't have to rack my brain, or, if I have a bazillion ideas going through my head, I could just kind of focus on, okay, I just need to put the red brick there.
Yeah.
And things like that. And so that was really what I didn't have those external forces of my daughter wanting it built right away and everything. And it was just for me, it became like meditative in some ways, and I don't know if you can see it as much right now, because I did take a few of them down because I was running out of room, but I have a ton of small Lego builds. And those are for when I have like a lunch break, I've had a stressed day, I'll just bust it out and I will do a small Lego build.
Mm,
So I get the tactile, I get that meditation, and then I'm done with something too. So I get that satisfaction of the thing I built.
mm.
And so Lego has just been a really amazing tool that I can use in my arsenal of things to help protect and encourage my mental health.
That's great. I love everything about that, and I appreciate you sharing what Lego means to you, because I think that's fantastic that it's brought some focus or aid to your daily life, and I can completely empathize with the way Lego makes you feel, because much like you, I love like sitting down and putting together some bricks, putting together a set, and it does bring me to a more calm and relaxing place where I feel like I can kind of refocus and uh like you know, feel like I can just kind of do this thing and then feel like I got something done. I can feel generally better about my day too if I'm a little stressed out. So that's like you. I have the same experience building Lego. And that's also I can completely agree with that feeling too. That I love the feeling that it gives me when I get to sit down and focus on a Lego set, or just to build something big or small. But generally, the small ones help a
Yeah.
lot too, right? When you're just
Yeah.
kind of in between things.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because I had actually borrowed that from a technique that I've used as a software engineer, where a lot of times you'll have like a big project that can maybe span multiple weeks that you're working on. And as a manager, I would encourage my developers, like, okay, maybe you finish this big, like long ticket or this big feature, go pick up like a small bug or like a, low hanging fruit, we call it, like something
Oh
kind
yeah,
of simple to do. And I used to tell them it's like a brain cleanser because it's great because it's small, you dig in, you're doing something different, and you're like, you finish quickly, like you have that you feel satisfied. And I've even encouraged them when they feel blocked on something they're working on, that they're like, oh, I'm trying to figure out how to, put this logic together or what have you. It's like, well, you know what? It's Friday. It's like, why don't you like grab a fun ticket for Friday,
yeah.
something that maybe requires a little bit of research or something a little interesting that'll kind of get your brain going in a different direction. And, something that has a beginning and end and that you can finish it in that small amount of time. And it's the same thing for, again, those little small sets. They can be a great way to reset my mental state and just kind of get me back into maybe being able to focus back on what I need to do.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's wonderful. It's very cool in a way. And I mean, if you would like to either add to this answer, because I feel like one of my next questions was going to be this, but I think this kind of answers it to a degree. How has Lego changed your life? How has it affected you?
In a huge, gigantic way, like ways that I can't even, like I couldn't even imagine that it would. Number one, I think it's been a really awesome way to continue building my relationship with my daughter, watching, us building together and watching her create these fun stories. And she'll ask me to come in. Well, she loves Friends. Friends is her favorite theme. And her crazy, crazy pants. Like she has basically an entire Heart Lake City in her room. It's very
Wow.
crazy. Like building that relationship with her and having this thing that both of us enjoy doing, because something to speak to as a parent. Sometimes when you go to play with your kid, you don't have necessarily the same likes and the same things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
And often you'll find yourself doing something that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. So having this thing that my child and I can connect on and both have an amazing time has
Yeah.
been fabulous. Again, my mental health and being able to, have this like little thing that I can step away from everything else going on and just just embrace this one project, this one thing, and, put everything else out of sight, out of mind, is fabulous. The other thing, which is not just Lego, but being a Lego content creator, and I've said this a few times, I have friends all over the world.
Mm.
And that is crazy to me. For somebody I've never left the country personally, I have friends in Australia, in the UK, in all of these different places. And it's so fun to have had Lego help me branch out to meet all these incredible people. And I was very lucky and privileged to be able to meet a lot of them in person at Brickworld Chicago. And so it's just, again, changed my life in ways that, like, 2 years ago, if you had told me, you're going to be streaming and you're going to meet all these people from around the world and have all this, these fun friends building Lego, I'd have been like, you're crazy. No way.
That's wonderful. That's very cool. And I it's amazing how much both the Lego and the content, like creating content, has really connected people to each other. I think that it does it in such a way that is pretty incredible, honestly. Much like you. I mean, I've been on Twitch for a while, so I've had some Twitch friends that I've made over the years, but it really exploded for me when I got into Lego too and found this corner of the Twitch community. And after that, there's a lot of people from it that I talk to on a daily basis now, just chatting about random things or just talking about Lego, but also daily life and how that's going. And so I love that. And I think it's awesome that that has affected you in that manner too. I think, like, if anyone does this long enough too, it just becomes one of those things where it will definitely impact your life in I think a lot of positive ways. It's very cool.
Yes.
Very cool. What do you hope to achieve with your time on Twitch? What do you hope to accomplish?
So I'm in a different boat than a lot of other people are, in the sense that I have an amazing day job. I love what I do. My work, I love the company I work for. It's fantastic. Everything's great. So this is really a hobby for me. So I don't have the goals of, monetization and, trying to, like, make this my full-time job. This is not something that I'm looking to do full-time. So my main goals here are to engage with and ideally help build the community, to, be a bit of representation again. So hopefully more young girls and, other women see, oh, okay, like, yeah, this is, I don't have to pretend I'm buying this for my kid and go build it in the dark somewhere, or where nobody could see me, or when everybody's asleep. Like, I can embrace this as, something I love to do and enjoy. And of course, I'm exaggerating. I don't think people are actually doing that, but maybe they are. But and I want to ideally raise other people up. I think it's so important to help, shine a light on other people in the community. And again, I love the tools that Twitch gives you for you to be able to say, somebody's in your chat, this is an amazing, person. You should go follow them too and have fun with them. And encourage other, content creators, or people to follow other content creators. That's really what my main goals here are, is to have fun, to engage with the community, to represent, more women in this community, and raise other creators up.
That's wonderful. I love that. I think that is, and we definitely need more of that. So I wholeheartedly appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you do more of that as the time goes on, and you continue to get to do that. So that's awesome. Is there any particular? I mean, I know your goal is not, to do anything like full time or monetize or any of that stuff. Do you have any like big goals though that you would love to accomplish, or something that you're like, I would really be excited if this happened with my Twitch community or the content that I create on the internet?
It's so. I feel like you caught me on a question that I
Ooh.
don't know because I've never really thought of it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I think the only thing that would be, fantastic is to see maybe other people ideally encouraged by what I'm doing, another big one actually is that, and I'm considering making actual videos for this, is because I'm so into like the technical part. I want to help other Twitch streamers, set a lot of their things up. Like I can't tell you, especially, and this will happen a lot because we've got a lot of newer people in the community. They often do tend to be women, and they'll say, oh, I don't have my alerts set up. I don't have this set up. And, I don't know how to do XYZ. And I sort of, part of me wants to reach through the screen and say, let me help you. I can help you get those things set up. And so I've been considering doing some like tech-based tutorials in a way, but very much around, okay, here's how to get some alerts out of the box, because Twitch has that new system where you can, it's super simple to turn on to at least get basic alerts going. And there's also this really amazing plugin for OBS that's from Atom that captures a vertical screen, like while you're doing stuff, and how easy that is to create content while you're streaming that you can put on vertical platforms and things like that.
Yeah.
And you like do little tutorials on that, like how to set it up so that you can play music on your stream, but it doesn't end up on your VODs. So you don't have to worry about like copyright stuff and things like that. So that would probably be like a goal for me, would be to be able to see like all these new streamers come in and get and like maybe be able to watch a video or something with that I've put together and be able to have their stuff set up and be ready to go.
Yeah. Love it. Make it happen. Would love to see it. I've been doing the same thing actually on here. So I'm all for it. If there's more resources that do that thing, let's go. Cause I think what's really, really interesting is it is all over YouTube to find those videos, but yet somehow it's still hard to do, right? Like somehow, and so I think more people that are making videos like that is always better. And plus you can give insight that not everyone else might have, which is always useful. Especially, I think you're one of the people who have the unique background of like, hey, I've been doing this on YouTube, but now I'm coming over to Twitch. Here's some things to understand. Very, very wonderful things. So I think it's excellent to make it happen. I'm here for you. I'm cheering for you to get that done.
Nice.
Yeah. I think just this morning I was joking about making a series called "Don't Suck at Streaming." So that was.
Oh, I love that.
I think there's always room. There's always room for those things for across the board for everyone.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting in that scenario is that because I'm not a how-to streamer or how-to content creator, it means that like people, for example, who are just in the Lego community will come across my like the video here and there and be like, oh, that's how you do it, maybe, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think it can maybe be a little intimidating, because I've watched some of those tech videos and sometimes they do tend to make a bit of assumptions about where you are.
Oh yeah.
And your understanding of a thing. Yeah. And so approaching it from I barely know what an alert is.
Yeah.
And here's how to set one up.
I think that's fantastic. And you're right. A lot of those videos just gloss over that. They'll give you here's how you do it, but then they don't really give there may be a couple steps in there that they kind of either gloss over ignore completely. So
Yeah.
Wonderful. Make it happen. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. This has been awesome. I think it's always great to get to know more AFOLs in the community, more content creators. One of the things I love to do is just kind of ask, like, who in the community inspires you to keep doing what you're doing yourself?
Oh my gosh, everyone, in all fairness, everybody inspires me.
Yeah.
Because even when because I have like my Tuesday stream and I'll have worked all day and I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And then I'll see everybody else out there doing their thing and putting stuff out there. And I was like, no, I can do it. I can still do it.
Yeah.
But definitely some people I would say, like, from maybe more of a female perspective that have really encouraged me. I do, for anybody who watched Cali Bricklick when it was on, Claire, the plastic architect, she was actually the person who, not unbeknownst to her, who helped me talk myself into streaming. I was watching a podcast that they were doing, and she had mentioned before when she was making content and how she always felt like, at first, and this is something that, I think a lot of, women can face sometimes, is it's, well, I've got to put the makeup on, I got to do my hair, do all that stuff. And then I can be on camera. And that often, men usually are just like, oh, I'm ready to go. Let me get in my chair. Let me put on, here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I like wearing makeup. It's fun to me, but I didn't want it to be a chore or a thing that I have to do to stream. And when she talked about finally getting comfortable with it not mattering, whether she's like got makeup and stuff on and just being herself and just streaming, that like really spoke to me. It spoke to me in the way that, like, oh, okay, like this doesn't have to be the barrier. For example, if I didn't put makeup on Tuesday, it's not like, well, I'm not streaming today.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine. If it's a day that my eyes are tired and I'm wearing my glasses, it's fine. Like, it's not one of those things that I have put so much stock into as I did before, about that the expectation that, especially as a woman, you're supposed to look a certain way to stream. Or to be on camera, right? The whole camera ready thing. And again, I love I love playing with makeup and doing it, but I want to do it on my own terms.
Yeah.
I want it to be something that, like, again, it's one of those meditative things sometimes as I'm putting the colors and blending them and having fun, that I enjoy doing. I don't want it to be like, well, I have to do this thing or I can't be on camera. And like I said, there are streams you'll come by and, like, my hair maybe hasn't been washed and it's up in a ponytail, but I'm just having a good time building with everybody. And I would say that just that one comment that Claire made really pushed me to do this.
And I think more people need to hear that, right? That's just, I'm glad that you shared that story, and I'm glad that is part of what drives you to do this as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's awesome. And I admit, I'm a guy. I don't have to worry about any of that. And it's literally, like, roll out of bed, take my shower, and then I can sit down and I'm cool. Like, it doesn't take more than maybe 20 minutes to, like, get ready for a stream if I really want to. So thank you for encouraging people to, be more comfortable. Is there anyone in the Lego community that you would like to collaborate with that you haven't had the opportunity to yet?
Everybody. I was very fortunate to be, I was a co-host on a YouTube show called Good Morning Brick World. It wasn't until recently that I sort of had to step away just due to some things I had going on, and I just couldn't, I couldn't do the commitment anymore. But on there, I really did have a fantastic opportunity to meet so many different creators and chat with them. And that is the one thing I do miss about, being able to do that is just chatting with other people and, learning about so many different things. In fact, when I would pitch ideas for Good Morning Brick World, because we'd have a topic each time, it was completely selfish. I'd be like, well, let's do mock builders because I'm interested in mock building, so I want to hear from other people. And or it was before Brick World Chicago, it was, well, let's talk about how you brand yourself and how you promote yourself when you go to these things. Because yes, you want to meet everybody, but you're displaying stuff. Ideally, you want people to start following you and engaging in your content and things like that too. So what are some of the things people do there? And it's always been just this curiosity I have and wanting to learn more about things. And so as far as like collaborating, it's more, I don't feel like I'm quite at the level for like too much like Lego collaboration yet. And more like, I just want more information from people. So I want to have more conversations with different creators and ask them about different things and how they, what their process is like pretty much what you do. A lot of what you do here is if I had like the patience and time to do something like this, I might consider it, but I don't. I know myself. But yeah, that's my big thing is just wanting to chat and talk with people about what they do, why they do it, what's your favorite theme, what is your history with Lego, all those amazing things that you asked too.
I think that's awesome, and I love that. I love doing that myself. That's why we're here. It's of course it's a wonderful thing to get to do, and I can speak from my firsthand experience of doing that. If you'd like, we can turn the tables temporarily. If you would like to take the next couple minutes and ask questions of your own, we can take it for a test ride if you want. Would you like to do that? Is that something?
Let's do this.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna love this. All right. Let's go. So let's okay. You're on.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right.
All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the Lego community and Lego building?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. So it was the at-home times for me as well. It was 2021 actually, early 2021 I want to say. I can't remember the timeline. Time also moves funny during that period. I remember seeing that R2-D2 had been out for a little while on the Lego site, and I've always built little Lego sets here and there through my adulthood, but it was never something that I was like a persistent hobbyist of. I would get them as gifts and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. I'd have family who are like, you loved Lego. Here's a Lego set. I'm like, cool, love it. But I never went out and really bought anything on my own. I think there was a couple times I bought some minifigs, like the CMFs, but it was nothing that was persistent. One day I saw the R2-D2 and I said to myself, man, it'd be really cool to build a big Lego set like that. I've never built anything huge. And so I got really, really excited. I finally pulled, I think about things before I do it, something like that. And that was a choice I had been sitting on for like a week. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I go on the Lego site, I go to order it, and I get the confirmation email and I'm super excited. But then I read the email and it says it's on back order. So then I'm like,
heartbreak.
So I'm, and they're like, estimated time, like, I think they said like 3-ish weeks to 4. And I was like, oh, well, there goes that idea. And in a bit of impulsiveness, I went back to the Lego side. I was like, well, what could I get that might not be on back order? And in that moment, I saw the Daily Bugle. And I'm a major Spider-Man fan. Collected the comics as a kid. Was obsessed with the Tobey Maguire run of Spider-Man when it came out in the theaters. And I pulled the trigger on a second Lego set without having even received the first one.
Wow.
And so I ordered the Daily Bugle. It showed up, I think, a week later, within a week. And I am at this point already a streamer. And I, in a second impulsive decision, decided to stream it live. And so in one fell swoop, I became an AFOL and a Lego content creator because I had not stopped since. It's been like two and a half years of building Lego. And that's the story, which I think my community has heard at least 5-6 times at this point. But and some were there to experience it in real time. But yes, the Daily Bugle was the first big set I got to build, and I loved it. The R2-D2 then arrived a couple weeks later, built that, loved it, and it's just been nonstop ever since. So
nice.
That's my Lego story.
All right. I have more questions. Ready?
Okay, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. All right. So, what would you say in Lego is your favorite non-IP theme?
Favorite Lego non-IP theme? That is really, really good. I haven't really done anything outside of like Star Wars, Marvel. I've done the art sets. And so does that count? Can I count the art sets?
That's a theme, yes.
Okay, so I loved the Starry Night. And I have the Great Wave. I've been staring at it for like weeks now.
I want that one so bad.
So I love the art sets. And so even though the only real one I've done is Starry Night, but I always appreciate seeing like people build that and the wave when I watch people do it, when I've seen it in person, and I'm like, those are really cool. They take something that is a classic known painting or piece of art, and they interpret it in a way that is very Lego, right? It's very, layered, three-dimensional, and it's still in its own way a piece of art that you can hang on your wall. And so, yeah, I'm down for that. I love that particular like run of Lego sets.
Nice. Yeah, no, those are fantastic. I did the one that had all the different panels. I had actually gotten it as a Christmas present for my mother-in-law. And we had the whole family there, and it worked out where each person got to build one of the squares. And I thought that was really awesome for her to put up, where each of us did one. And everybody, like for all the way from the kids to grandma, loved putting one together. So it was a super, super fun experience. Okay. So when you're buying, like when you decide you want to buy or you're going to get a Lego set, like what is it about a Lego set that speaks to you? Like, do you stick to specific themes only? Or is there because I'm a Marvel fan, I need all the Marvel, like what are the things that drive you to buy or want a certain set?
There's a little bit of the being a fan of the theme, whether it be Marvel or Star Wars, that plays a small part in it. That's kind of the prereq in a lot of cases, to be honest. But I'm not out to collect every single one of them or the vast majority of them. I'm still very picky. And the next piece of criteria for me is, does it look like I'd have fun building it? Because that's really ultimately what I'm after. Does it, like, from what I can tell, what I can see, does that look like a fun build to me? Would I enjoy sitting down, and what is that experience? Obviously, you don't really know until you're there, but you can kind of gauge it by looking at the complexity of the set or maybe spotting a couple techniques in it. So then that's the second prereq for me. And then the third one, admittedly, and this is why art hits so hard, is would it look great if I just had it on a shelf or on the wall? So for me, do I like the content of it? Do I think I'll like the build, which I know I can't guess for sure. And then the third one is, would it look awesome sitting on a shelf or somewhere on display if I decide to keep it? Most of the time I do keep it built and set up somewhere. So that's kind of the criteria for me. So the theme doesn't really dictate whether it's an automatic buy, but it's kind of like the foot in the door. And then it's the experience of the build, and then how I would enjoy it after the build. And so I tend to go for Admittedly, like the big, huge things when I can. So like the biggest thing I built recently is the Batcave, right? And I know some people are like, it's a lot of black pieces. Why would you want to do that? But it's like, it's a big Batcave. Why wouldn't you want to build something huge with a lot of call outs to like Batman? Like the Batcave is like the iconic set piece to like Batman in a lot of ways. So that's a perfect example of why I went with it. The Daily Bugle, which was my first big set that I built, it kind of like it checks all those boxes for me. And admittedly, I am a sucker for nostalgia. So Optimus Prime, any of the Nintendo, like the NES is probably my favorite set of all time. It's just such a wonderful one. It was a great experience, but two, like the feeling of holding the controller was awesome, and holding like the box. Cause I remember holding the real NES so many times when I would like move it to another shelf, or I would pack it up for like a sleepover at a friend's house. Like that elicited a lot of wonderful memories. So NES is like up there for me. And like the Back to the Future DeLorean. So those all check boxes for me in that I'm a fan of the content in some way, and in some cases I'm having a lot of wonderful memories of it. They looked fun to build, and then I'm stoked to see it sitting on my shelf. So
now, which movie version of the DeLorean did you build?
I went with the first one when I first built it, because it was the one I saw the most of, I think, growing up. But then I later, after I had it on the shelf for like a couple weeks, I changed it to the one in 2, because that one was actually my favorite one. So I went with the iconic look, because I think a lot of people remember the first one, but a lot of people loved the second one, and I count myself as one of those fans. So I went from 1, and then I kept it. It's still as 2 on my shelf. Actually, I admit I haven't even done the version from 3. I just haven't done that at all. So yeah.
All right. Last question.
All right.
Okay. The boxes.
Do you
keep them or do you throw them away?
Early on, I kept them for the bigger sets that I did. And then I realized that at this rate, if I kept every box, there would be like even less room. Even like room is something we already struggle with as AFOLs. I think.
Yes.
And so I only have 2 boxes. One is for the Titanic, because I just felt like that would be hard to get rid of. I mean, it's a nice big box. And then the Batcave. Those are the only ones I still have. Technically, I have the Hulkbuster one, but I'm still working on that, and I may actually get rid of that one. But I used to keep them, and then I kind of hit almost like a max capacity, and I was like, okay, I can't hold on to all the boxes. So
nice, nice. Oh my gosh, that was so fun! Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. There you go. You got to give it a shot. I mean, I know you already have conversations all the time on your stream, so it's not like it's anything new, but there you go. There you go. You got to do it
but normally
on this podcast.
Me answering stuff. Yeah, it was nice to like hear from other people and stuff. It's like, and I love when it's things that it's like, ooh, me too.
Yeah. I like to think of myself as a very, I think I fall in line with a lot of other AFOL's thoughts on things. I'm kind of your typical Lego fan, admittedly, but I do know what I like, and I do have my own process when it comes to picking things. So I actually really appreciated that question, because I think I've never had to actually answer that. And I think that I think for those that know me, it wouldn't surprise them, but I think that also illuminates those choices to a lot of people that never have really either thought about it or paid attention. So,
yeah.
Cool.
No, that's always a fun question. Just because I know people always have different motivations for like why they get a certain set. You know, I mean, there are some people who are just like, it's Harry Potter, therefore I have to get it.
Yep.
Like just plain and simply, like they don't care what it is, you know, and like everybody has like a different motivation. And sometimes they also differ because like there may be somebody who's very picky, but again, if like it's a Star Wars prequel set, right? Like they definitely have to get it, things like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I kind of have like that mini checklist as I outlined. I'm like, does it generally check these boxes? Occasionally I might skip one of those boxes, but more often than not, it has to meet that criteria, because then I think I convinced myself of it 6-7 months into the hobby, where I was like, if I bought everything that looked cool to me,
I know
I would be in trouble. And so I kind of, that was almost a self-imposed manner of culling it down, making it like, do I really care about what it is? Does it look cool? Will I enjoy the build experience? Okay. If it's like two of those things, more often I'm very like, no, probably not. Or I wait till it goes on sale and then I recheck my feelings on it.
You know, I'll be honest, I do struggle with like the day one thing, like the need to get something on day one and then have it sitting in your backlog for who knows how long. And it's this weird, it's not going away. It's not going to retire right away, but I will, it's almost like I need that experience of the day one where you're like at the Lego store and you're in line with all the people to like get the set. And again, they normally just sit in my backlog.
Yeah.
Except I will say, except for this last release day, I got the No Way Home Final Battle and I started building it on stream and I finished it day one.
Nice.
Yeah. That was my very first time purchasing a day one and finishing it that day too.
That's awesome. How was that for you?
I loved it. For me, because I had the Tobey Maguire, and then I had the Andrew Garfield and everything. So when I saw that movie, I loved it. I stayed away from spoilers, so I didn't know what was going to happen. So everything was a surprise to me, and it's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies ever. Is that one? And so when they introduced this set with all three of the Spider-Man, I'm like, well, I don't really care what the build is. It's 3 Spider-Man, like it's all 3 of them as minifigs. I kind of have to get it.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to build. It was actually really fun. I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. That's on my list of things. I mean, again, Spider-Man fan myself. So that and the new Spider-Man art set are like the two that are on my list. And like you, I've definitely struggled with like new release where it's like, oh, it's brand new. There's kind of that like almost FOMO you get, right?
Yes.
If you don't. And so I struggle with that from time to time. And I've been trying to make a conscious decision around that. I don't always succeed, but I've been more mindful lately of, do I really need it on release? And part of my criteria on a day one thing now is, and this is very recent, is if I get it, do I want it enough to build it like sooner than later? Because if it sits in my backlog, for me, like I think there's nothing wrong if people add it to their backlog, but for me, I would feel bad. So staring at it in my backlog when I could have just waited when I was ready to build it. And so that's one of my like optional 4th questions I ask myself. Am I willing to build it right away to justify the day one purchase? If the answer is no, then I leave it in my cart and just close the tab and then I walk away.
Nice.
And then if I am still thinking about it the next morning, I'm like, okay, maybe. But then I'm like, but I have to build it then if I do that. And so, and I don't know if my community has noticed that pattern, because if it's a new buy, it kind of comes up to the front of the backlog, where it's like, it just ends up being the next thing I build, because then I can feel better about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, technically on my last stream, I was supposed to start working on my mock, but when I got that set, I'm like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
We are building this on set. On stream.
Yeah.
And I normally, when I build something on stream, I normally try to save it for the next stream.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nope, I'm finishing this. There's no way. Like, I need this thing done.
Yeah. It's cool to hear like people's thought processes on like when they build a thing or how they decide, especially those of us with the backlog, right? It's like, when do you build the thing that you've gotten recently? The whole Hulkbuster thing for me happened recently because I noticed it was on sale, which was kind of a big motivator. But then I had been looking at the rebrickable of it that vastly like improves its look in a lot of ways. And so those were the two reasons, because before all that, and I think a lot of people who looked at the Hulkbuster thought this too, was like, I pass, right? It's like, that's a huge set. Not really a big fan of how it looked at the time. But, it was on sale and it got rebricked into something that looks cooler. So I was like, I can't not now. And so that did it.
Yeah. Well, it's also just on the rebrickable topic. I think it's really interesting where I think some sets can either find new life or extended life based on a rebrickable. For example, I believe it was the Noodle Shop. There was this really awesome rebrickable. I think it required 2 of them to do. And it was just, I found it so interesting that so many people were buying the Noodle Shop, not for the original build, but for what they could do with it via rebrickable, which was so interesting.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think when there is an especially good rebrickable out there, it can, like you said, give new life to a set. It can kind of almost create a hype around it that is definitely unexpected. Because I got a little bit of that when I decided to do the Hulkbuster thing, and unbeknownst to me, I kind of had that thought process and I went to do it, and then it came up later in conversations with other people who felt the exact same way. They're like, "Oh, have you seen that rebrickable on the Hulkbuster? That looks rad." I was like, "Yeah, I totally got that, and I totally bought the Hulkbuster." And then someone else was like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying it because of the sale price and the rebrick too." I'm like, "Oh, there's a bunch of us doing that. Great." It can change the trajectory of a set, to be quite honest. So
yeah. And of course, again, with something like the Noodle Shop where it required 2.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's just like so many people were like, "Oh, it was on sale, so I waited for it to go on sale so I could buy the 2.
Buy the 2 of them."
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard a couple people do that. Like people I personally know, where they're just like, "Oh yeah, excited to check out the Noodle Shop setup." So
yeah. Something I would say though is kind of interesting about the rebrickables, at least and this could have just been like what my very first experience ended up being, is that for somebody who's used to building Lego sets, and again, how, sturdy they are and how the pieces and things like go together really well. When you do a rebrickable, especially if it's based on a existing set, there were some things that were unexpected for me. And number one, it's the fact that you do just have a person who is creating the instructions. They're not always I don't want to say correct, but maybe not put in like the best order. Like I recall putting my first one together and it wanted me to put something in a place that by the time I got there was inaccessible. So I had to partially take it apart to get it back in there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, there was another reworkable I did where it was just not sturdy. And again, I understand that they were confined to the pieces in a particular set. And so, they're kind of making the best they can with that. But I found that I had to make some adjustments and kind of change the way I build in order to build something like this, because it's not a set of instructions that have been gone through and tested by people and that, have like a play test to see, how sturdy is this thing? Because a couple of reworkables I've built, I'm like, okay, that goes on a shelf and I'm never going to pick it up again.
Yeah. There's also, the standards, right? I'm sure they have best practices in how you convey particular orders of building, things like that. There's all these little things that go into a Lego set and its instructions. Yeah. And then when you get a rebrickable, your mileage may vary. You might not have someone who's either familiar with those best practices or someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't do it a certain way. And then you get experiences like what you just described.
Yeah. I will say one of the positive, not that I'm certainly not trying to, be negative about rebricables. It's more of like a warning for people, just like, hey, by the way, when you do a rebrickable, keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's also been really cool is seeing the interesting way people take what they have available. Again, the constraints they have are just whatever's available in a set. And a few of the rebrickables will be like, and you need a couple extra pieces. But a lot of them are very much constrained. But interesting ways that they will use pieces to replace where you would have just had a particular piece.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun about learning some different building techniques too.
Yeah. I'm sure we could keep going for a while, but I think this is a good breaking point. I think this is a good place to be. Before we close it down completely though, where can everyone find you?
So I'm on Twitch.
Yeah.
So there I am. I do my Tuesday night streams, which are 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time every Tuesday. And we were supposed to start last week, but we had some technical issues. But on Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I will be streaming our D&D game. I have D&D with Lego friends that we're doing. And we had to do our first session kind of like offline last Wednesday because the stuff we were trying to use wasn't working correctly. But hopefully we'll have it all working for this upcoming Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. Give her a follow, show her some support. Thank you so much for being here with me, telling your story and getting to just chat about Lego and content and all the things in between. I really appreciate you sharing all of it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was wonderful. So there's one ritual that we like to do on this show. And I don't like closing out the show because I feel like it should be in the hands of the guest. So if you have any final thoughts, pieces of wisdom, or just any way you would like to end this particular episode, the floor is now yours, Amberlia.
Ooh. Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much. This has been such an amazing time and such a pleasure to be here and chatting with you. And of course, being able to interact with your community, which is all of our community, right? But all the amazing people in chat and everything. I'm so excited to have been here and been able to chat with everybody. And I would say, keep building.